This man claims to have the answer with a software program you can download at an app store. We'll have Harvey and more when we return.
Far, we've been traveling far, without a home, not without us.
You're listening to The Rick Ungar Show on Sirius XM Left 127.
So, Harvey Boulter is the chairman of Seecrypt Group, Inc. Now, on a personal level, as I understand it, Harvey is not at all happy about what he has learned courtesy of Edward Snowden. Yet at the same time, the disclosure of NSA snooping on millions of Americans by collecting data on their phone calls may be the greatest thing ever to happen to Harvey's business. Why? Because Harvey's in the business of a private encrypted telephone network that runs on your smartphone, and it's as simple as downloading an app from the App Store. Harvey's got himself a software program where you can beat the NSA at his own game, or so he says. Has Harvey really found the cure for the NSA bug? Let's ask him. Harvey, you there?
Rick, how are you?
I'm very well indeed. How are you?
I am very good, sir.
Happy 4th of July to you.
Happy 4th of July to you and your audience as well.
Thanks so much. So listen, I downloaded your program yesterday. It's pretty cool. Why don't we start by you spending a moment or two explaining your system. Tell us what it can do to frustrate those who would like to listen in on our phone calls.
So very simply, it's an app. It's available in the Google Play Store, the iTunes Store. You download it to either device, an Apple or an Android device, and it enables any two people with the app to make a call that has military-grade security. It's an extremely strong encryption tool to make that call absolutely secure between those two devices. And every single call you make, you get a new encrypted key. Every single message you make, you get a new encrypted key for every single message. So you can be anywhere around the world, Rick, and you could make a call, say, from the United States to South Korea, picking a random country, and that call is secure end to end.
Well, there's an obvious question that pops into one's mind, and I played with it yesterday. I put it on, I put my wife's on, and yeah, we did it. My question is the obvious one, though. So you say that the encryption program is just about as strong as it can get, but honestly, do you really think that your encryption program is so good that the NSA can't bust through it?
Well, here's the thing. Encryption and securing a call through encryption techniques is all about a very large mathematical key. And so in order to brute force this, i.e. guess that key, you would need to have about 10 to the power of 600 guesses, which is just an enormous number of guesses. And so if you took a country like Spain, for example, with its type of computing capability,
right,
you could be there 30, 40 years breaking a single message.
Seriously?
Now, the NSA does have massive computing power. So everything can be brute forced. But if I've got a million concurrent calls or messages going on, you're going to have to be real selective.
They're going to, and they're really going to have to want me, aren't they, to go to that trouble?
They would. They would. And if you were a bad guy who was that bad, you wouldn't be using a phone in the first place.
Right. So, well, yeah, I agree with you there. But it's interesting that it would be difficult for something or somebody as sophisticated as any nation's spying agency to have to go to that much trouble. And there is logic there. If they're going to go to that trouble, spend that amount of money, take that much time, obviously they want you. And if they want you, you're bad enough that you're not using it in the first place. So I get the logic there. It's very interesting. It is. I'm curious about its application to businesses, does it extend beyond the smartphone? Let's say that you want to keep the Chinese out of your business computer because you've got intellectual property on there that maybe they'd like to have, or even somebody else. Do you do things that would stop that from happening? Can you give a business that kind of peace of mind?
So that's exactly right. That's where we're going. So at the moment we have voice real-time voice encryption, and we have messages, secure, encrypted message service between the two devices. On our roadmap, we will be launching a desktop device, so you can actually call from your computer out to somebody on a mobile phone, and vice versa, and even network them back into a conference calling type situation, overlaying other forms of data as well. So, for instance, email. And so we are specialists in protecting data flying between two endpoints, if you like. And that's critical to business, at the moment, because, we've talked about the NSA and surveillance, in many different forums in the last few weeks. But it's fundamentally important to business to protect their trade secrets, their intellectual property, their military secrets against cyber intercept and cyber attack from all fronts.
Interesting. We're talking with Harvey Boulter, who has come up with basically an app. It's an app. You can download it to your smartphone. You download it. You can make telephone calls that are virtually protected from the NSA or anybody else who might want to listen to what you have to say. If you want to get into this conversation, if you've got questions for Harvey, you can give us a call at 866-997-4748. Harvey, you must know quite a bit about hacking, yes?
Well, we do. You've got to know quite a lot about hacking and intercept in order to be able to produce a technology like Seecrypt that will, prevent you from those type of intercepts.
So, just how big is the international hacking business? I mean, do you have any sense of how much money is involved in what's going on between companies stealing from companies or governments stealing from companies? What are we talking about here?
It's truly enormous, and there are many countries around the world where we might sit and surveillance is commonplace, and people in the Middle East or Asia assume governments, not necessarily just their own, but other governments are surveilling them. I think the Snowden revelations widen that to perhaps you had a working assumption that perhaps the NSA wasn't doing it on you, and that's sort of been shattered a little bit. But the reality here, Rick, is that you can buy an RF antenna, download a bit of software from the internet, and $700-800, you're up and running, and you're intercepting people. Right. It's really not difficult to do.
So how do you explain the fact that with all of the highly sophisticated things that are about today in terms of software technology, why aren't businesses, why isn't government better able to protect themselves? This is, to me, one of the amazing things in the United States today. We do not appear, either on the private side or on the public side, to have done anything near what we need to do to avoid cyber crime, cyber warfare.
And let me give you two examples as to how bad it is. 10 years ago, there was a British guy, Gary McKinnon, who hacked his way on his own, into the Pentagon. Just last year, supposedly the Chinese intercepted and hacked its way into Lockheed Martin and took nearly a terabyte of data in relation to the Joint Strike Fighter. And that was publicized. If you can't protect government institutions like that or your defense contractors, small business really doesn't have a hope here.
Is this the result of it costing too much money to pull off the defense, or is this the result of whenever you might install something that's going to protect you today, the bad guys are going to beat it by tomorrow?
No, it's actually, I think it's largely down to policy, government policy. There has been such support for the ability to surveil all forms of communication, such requirement to put back doors in, that you have so many back doors now. It's a bit like Swiss cheese. There are so many openings. A back door that enables you to surveil, certain aspects or certain conversations is also signposted for the bad guy to go through the same back door, to grab your data.
How do you put a stop to it then? How do you ever put a stop to it?
Well, the government needs to really have a proper debate over the ability to surveil, people for threats and the ability to protect them against, foreign entities foreign countries surveilling them as well. And the problem is that debate hasn't really taken place, at the moment in a public way. And the part of the debate on surveillance has really taken place behind a closed door at the moment.
Yeah. So just to take it back to your product, as we've discussed, this obviously does a lot of good on my cell phone. At the same time, you said that there are applications for this for emails. Do you have a product available that I can download and know that whenever I am writing an email, sending an email, nobody's able to get to it?
So we do not at the moment. It is prototyped within our labs, which are all based down in South Africa at the moment. So we know how we're going to do it. Commercially, it will probably be available in 2 to 3 months' time, and then it will allow you end-to-end security over your email traffic.
Does that include where it's sitting on a server somewhere, who knows where?
Yes, absolutely. So ideally, you want to keep your own data with you. You don't want to sit it in a server somewhere in the middle, anywhere around the world. But to the extent it was sat on a third-party server, the beauty of our system is it's so encrypted, it would take them years and years and years to decipher it.
Interesting.
And every single email would have a different key.
And this is even the case.
The problem is exponentially large.
This is even the case where it's sitting on a Google server in Virginia or whatever.
Well, that's absolutely right. And that's the real issue at the moment. Particularly foreign corporations, overseas are wondering how badly their data has been compromised if it's sitting on a Google server.
Mm-hmm.
That's a concern.
Exactly. So we're talking with Harvey Boulter, the man with a plan to rid you of the NSA blues. We have a caller who has a question for you, Harvey. You okay if I bring him on? Larry from Arkansas. Larry, what's on your mind, man?
Hey. Yeah, I'm sitting here listening to your program with your guests.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty interesting, but...
we like to think so.
Huh?
We like to think so, that it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, but, it's a little bit too intellectual for me, What I'm wondering is, does your guest actually have an answer to my question? I'm just a little...
give us your question. Give us your question.
Okay, what can I do as a ordinary little old citizen out here with no power, nothing but one little old vote, like that's supposed to mean something, So what do I do about government snooping, Anything I can do?
What do you say there, Harvey?
I think there's two things you could do. I think you can write to your state representative and lobby him for a proper debate on privacy, within the United States. And the second thing you can do, if you're fortunate enough to own an iPhone, for example, or a Samsung or an Android device, download our app and put in the code USA, and you will get 12 months for free, sir.
Okay, I heard your answer.
You want to tell Larry where to download the app and the name?
So, all you would do is you would go to your app store, for instance, on iTunes, and you type in Seecrypt, Seecrypt, download the app for free, and when you register, for the app, which you can do any time in the first 3 months of you having the app, it works immediately, but you can register any time in the first 3 months, and it will ask you for an email address so we can identify who you are, and it asks you, would you like to put in a promotional code? And we've set one up called USA, and that gives you 12 months for free, sir.
Yeah, okay. Where are you from? You sound like an Australian.
He's from Brooklyn.
I am actually from the UK, so I'm a British citizen, and I live in the Middle East. So I'm calling in from the United Arab Emirates in Dubai at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Larry. Appreciate the call. We still got a minute before break. I want to start with a question that's going to take you longer to answer, but let's get going on. You got to tell us what you think about what's going on in our country right now with Mr. Snowden.
Well, look, I don't support what Snowden has done. I mean, he's clearly breached your laws on classified information, and for that, he will eventually need to come home and face some justice in relation to it. But I do think that he has stimulated a good debate on privacy, and I think that debate is quite long overdue.
Do you actually see that debate taking place? Because I don't. All I see is a constant vigil over where he's sleeping tonight.
Well, I think he's going to clearly have some personal problems as to find anywhere that will eventually, he will eventually be able to call home, and there's no doubt about that at all. I suspect he might end up, taking the decision to come back to the United States and face the music.
He'd have been better off, if that's the case, to have never left, wouldn't you think? I actually agree with you, by the way. I don't think he's going to like...
I think he was only able to, execute the plan that he had in his mind, by leaving. And I've no doubt that there's probably a few more revelations that he's got, planned, in his bag somewhere. That would seem to be quite likely.
I think that's right. Harvey, can you stick with us for a few minutes? I'm forced to take a break right here, but I got a few more things I'd love to talk to you about. We're talking to Harvey Boulter, the man who has come up with a software program that can protect your phone calls from being snooped on by the NSA. We'll have a little more with Harvey when we return. If you want to join the conversation, it's 866-997-4748. More with Harvey and a whole lot more than that on this 4th of July in just a moment.
I roamed and I rambled and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond desert.
Sirius XM Left 127. And now, back to the Rick Ungar Show.
We continue this 4th of July morning with Harvey Boulter, chairman of Seecrypt Group Incorporated. This is a company that has come up with a simple, easy download. You can bring it right down to your smartphone, and you can use this program to protect your calls, to keep anybody, including the NSA or any other spy agency or anybody who might be interested in prying into your business. This will encrypt your calls in a way that nobody can listen in on you. Pretty interesting. Harvey, you still there with us?
Yes, I am, Rick.
Excellent. So, I want a little comparative analysis. This is really what I wanted to get from you before I let you go. You are an Englishman. We saw some significant issues in England over the past year involving Rupert Murdoch and the whole hacking thing with the telephones. How would you compare the belief structure, if you will, the way people feel about this kind of, I call it semi-spying. I can't bring myself to call it spying on the American people, because I do recognize that while they're collecting all this metadata, it's not like somebody's sitting there pushing a button and listening to the words that we say, unless there's a reason. There's simply too many calls. But how would you compare the public's attitude towards this in the United States versus a country like England?
Well, I think, Rick, we had obviously a very significant news event when the News of the World was caught.
Indeed.
Hacking, 3,000-4,000 people, real-time, conversations, their voicemail, and all sorts of other things. And that was a fairly explosive issue in the UK. And so I think the population in the UK have sort of seen the hacking scandal, if you like, and so are perhaps a bit more thick-skinned to it now, because that happened, with News Corporation, in the United Kingdom. In America, I don't think the concept of people being listened to has really been appreciated fully by the electorate.
You think it's out of sight, out of mind? We kind of know that it must be going on, but we'd rather not think about it.
Well, I think that's right. I mean, you do see a lot of newspaper articles and journalists reporting on cyber threat, but I think many people had the view that, well, it hasn't happened to me, or sure, I don't have a secret, and they kind of forget that actually whilst they might not have secrets, they've got a lot of private information that they might want to keep private, whether it's healthcare records or banking records or the passwords to their telephone banking system, and these things they should be keeping private.
Harvey, if you hear that music, you know what that means? It means I got to let you go. They're forcing me into a hard break. So can I just thank you? I want to thank you for joining us. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to do a quick commercial for Harvey here because I like the product. Go to your app store, look for Seecrypt, Seecrypt. Download it and give it a try. He's giving you a year for free. What do you got to lose? You might find it interesting. Again, thanks, Harvey. When we return, political funny man.